Hey everybody, it's Katie from Health, Wellness, and Chocolate. Thanks so much for joining me today. So I thought this would be helpful for you, especially as we're getting closer to the holidays. It finally feels like fall outside. I think I read this morning that so far in the fall of 2020, this October has been the warmest October ever. And a cold front finally went through the other night, and we woke up and we had the windows open in our room, and it was actually chilly. So it was kind of nice. None of my kids are complaining though, because it's 65 in here, and they're like, well, we have to put the heat on. I'm like, just put on a sweater. It's actually really nice. I actually want to open the windows and get I don't know, just get some fresh air in here, but they're starting to complain already. And I'm like, if it was February and it was this warm out, we would be thrilled. So, let's kind of get a grip, right? But, this weather kind of reminds me that, okay, the holidays are coming, and let's I think I read, and I'll have to look it up, but they say the average weight gain, I believe, is about 5 pounds over the holidays. And if you're an emotional eater, that actually might trigger a lot more weight than that, because that 5 pounds is really an average, right? And they say too that you probably won't take that weight off. Even if the New Year's resolution diet thing doesn't really do much, so they were saying how, when you enter into the holiday season, you really want to be equipped with, okay, how do I do this? How do I go to these parties? Katie, you tell us, write our food down ahead of time, and that would help us stick to our eating plan that we're choosing for ourselves. But I don't know what they're going to be serving, And so a lot of emails I get is well, what do I do if I really have no control over the food I'm going to be served? And I know that could be a legitimate thing, but I think too, sometimes we think, well, I have no control over it, so that means I have to eat out of control. Whereas thinking, okay, if you can kind of think, like we talked about last week, on the spectrum of okay, we don't have to think all or nothing. Let's figure this out. Most of the food that we eat is not some crazy food that we've never had. It's not like all of a sudden we're on a different planet and we're like, whoa, what's this? Is this considered a protein, a fat, or a carb? Wow, what is this unique molecule? So if you can get even general with your food plan and just say, okay, I'm going to have a serving of whatever is given to me that's the size of my fist. And just write that down and then just stick to it, right? Because the size of your fist is a pretty good indication of the size of your stomach. And having about that much food should keep you satisfied, right? So you can set your food journal to say, I'm going to find the most nourishing, delicious food that I'd like to eat at this upcoming party. And I'm going to eat about the size of my fist. And that could be your food journal for that day. So even if you don't have control over what's being served you or where you're going to be, or maybe you'll be traveling, just keep that with you. Okay, it doesn't have to be this all or nothing. Well, I can't control it, so I might as well have ice cream. As tempting as that totally is, and I get it. If health is kind of your goal, and actually trying not to gain weight, and even if it's not even to lose weight, but it's just maybe to maintain this healthy balance in your life, kind of consider that. Start thinking of okay, I know I'm not going to be in control over what's served to me, but that doesn't mean I am out of control, right? And then you can just kind of go forward and be okay, you know what? I'm going to see if there's any vegetables, and I'll fill half my plate with that. And then I'll look for something that looks really appetizing. Or maybe you're at a dinner party, and you'll actually get served a plate of food. It's an already, it's all, I don't know, pre-served on a plate, and it's given to you. Then just commit, okay, I'm going to eat my fistful, immediately start dividing things in half, even if you just do it mentally because you don't want to look weird. But, you can, just because you might not have control over what's served doesn't mean you're powerless in the situation. As remember, a lot of the root of why we overeat or why we emotionally eat is really, the root of it is powerlessness. And so just going in with a plan ahead of time, even if you don't know what is being served, but just saying, okay, I'm not going to be powerless in this situation. I'm going to go in and say, all right. And even if it's fries, maybe you have to stop and the only place that is available is fast food. Okay, so make the best nourishing choice you can at the fast food place. And if like the fries are screaming at you because it's been a long car ride and you don't want to have them, but they just are irresistible, like, so have 10 fries but like sit there and savor them and like taste them and really enjoy them. Don't just like gobble them down because you've given yourself permission and the entire extra large bucket of fries is gone and you really didn't even taste it and now you feel miserable. Like, then if you're going to have them, like just be intentional about it and be like, okay, I'm going to have them and I'm really going to enjoy them. And I'm going to pick like 10 of the best looking ones and I'm going to sit here and I'm really going to taste them and I'm going to chew them and I'm going to savor them and I'm going to enjoy them. And then kind of like don't allow yourself to feel guilty about it. Like be intentional though. Instead of like, well, I can't control this, so I might as well just eat whatever, right? That's kind of the theme of today's podcast. I really just want you to always be in control or feel in control, even if the circumstances are out of your control, because you can always control what you're taking in, right? Like there's like the dinner party, they're not going to strap you down and force feed you. And so you're still in control over what you put in your body. And even you can even plan ahead and say, I know I have this dinner party or this holiday event coming up and I'm going to not have dessert until that time. And then I'm going to pick the most delicious looking dessert and I'm going to really enjoy it, right? Like you can totally do that and still keep that balance of keeping your health and wellness in mind, but also acknowledging like, yeah, this is a special occasion and this is, I knew that and, I can't control, everything, but I'm going to enjoy this and I'm not going to make it mean anything about me, or I'm not going to make it mean, like that I just have to like, okay, the healthy eating is out the window till the new year, right? Like you don't have to do that either. It doesn't have to be this all or nothing. It could be very intentional. Like I'm going to do this and I'm going to totally love it. And then I'm going to plan for it ahead of time. And then have it and enjoy it, right? So anyway, I just hope and hopefully you have spent enough time with me to realize like, weight loss really does happen in your mind and the thoughts that you think about certain situations and how powerless you feel in certain situations really play out and then in your behavior. So I really want to caution you coming into this holiday season, like don't throw everything you've been doing this whole year out the window because you think you have to, and then you'll just pick it up again come January 1st. Like you might not even feel like you might feel powerless to even lose weight, but you can say, you know what, my goal for the month of November and December isn't to lose weight. It's just to maintain what I've done so far. So that might mean like you have a couple desserts at the holiday parties or you have the holiday cookies at the cookie swap or whatever it is. And you're not beating yourself up about it and saying, well, I had the cookies, might as well have brownies, might as well have, all these other things. Like you can say, I'll have a bite here or there and not really trash yourself about it, but just plan for it. And so for example, if we were going somewhere and I really didn't know what was going to be served, I could mentally say ahead of time then like, all right, I'm going to have, like a serving of protein. And so in my mind, I would envision like a deck of cards and the size of a deck of cards is a serving, right? So, okay, I'm going to have whatever protein they serve. I'm going to, in my mind, have it be about a deck of card size. And then I'll have a cup of whatever grain or carbohydrate or pasta or whatever it is that's being served, maybe rice, quinoa, pasta, something along maybe potatoes or sweet potatoes, whatever it is, about a cup's worth. And then the rest of my plate, I'll try to fill with vegetables, or maybe there's a fruit salad or whatever. But like, even if you're not in control of the menu, you could still be in control of your plate and what you take. And you can still plan ahead of time and you can plan the dessert as well. Okay. So hopefully, I hope I'm not like beating a dead horse, but like, I just want you to give yourself permission to enjoy the holiday season coming up, but don't like, consider like really your long-term goals too. And so don't throw everything out the window like, well, it's this time of year and that's just what I'm going to do. You can be like, oh, I can have both. I can enjoy the holiday parties and I can still stick to my health and wellness goals. It is not impossible. It's totally doable. And so I really want to bring that to your attention because that is actually a realistic lifestyle approach to being healthy, but also living life. Because there's the other end of the spectrum too, where you have this idea of like, well, I'm eating healthy, and so I'm not even going to have Thanksgiving dinner this year. I'm going to go, but I'm going to drink a shake. I mean, that's not living either, right? Like, you need balance, and that would really, that kind of mindset too, like even trying to be uber healthy, or like, well, when I get to my goal weight, then I'll eat again. Like, that's not realistic or sustainable either. So you want a balance in your life that is sustainable, and like going to holiday parties, spending time with family, spending time with friends, part of that fellowship is food, right? Like, that's the kind of like communion with people, is sitting and eating. And it goes back hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years, where, you know, even when the Pilgrims sat and ate with the Native Americans, that was a sign of peace. And it was always known that if a Native American like came to your house and you know, you would invite them in to eat with you, because that was a kind of like an understood agreement then that they wouldn't attack you. And so like eating with people and dining with them and spending time with them, like that is a sign of peace with people, right? And so you don't want to throw it out the window either in the name of health and wellness, because being lonely, being isolated, not spending time with family and friends because of your eating rules and restricting yourself, like that's not healthy either. And so in life, you need to find a way of eating that is sustainable, that keeps your long-term health goals in mind, but allows a flexibility in it. So, and that requires like to stop with the all or nothing thinking, because really extra weight is just a symptom of life out of balance, right? Like, so if you have extra weight on you, it's really just kind of demonstrates like maybe there's something wrong with your thoughts, that they're not serving you, and you really need to dig in and figure that out so that you can rebalance and stop with the black and white thinking in whatever way that shows up. So inside the Health and Wellness Blueprint, I have a whole class called Eating Reasons, but I wanted to share some of them with you. And if you go back to like the very, very first podcasts that I ever put out, one of the tools that I have taught you is to interrupt a sudden urge to eat with curiosity, right? Like you can sit there and you don't have to, like just because you have a feeling doesn't mean you have to answer that feeling with the urge to eat. So if you have an urge to eat, it's not the truth typically, right? You can sit there and be like, I wonder why I'm hungry all of a sudden. Like, what was just going on? And actually, and not beat yourself up either. Like, oh, I'm such a slob. All I think about is food. What's wrong with me? But be like, hey, how come I'm hungry right now? Like, what just happened that made me think it's time to eat? Or why is my body telling me? Or why is my brain saying, hey, Katie, go get something to eat. You deserve it, or you need it, or whatever, right? And it's like, well, I just ate only an hour ago. I know I'm not biologically hungry. So why is my brain saying go eat something? Like, what else is going on? Rather than just responding by going with food, like give pause to the thought and like kind of capture it and explore it. Like be like, what is this? Like take every thought captive. So like take that thought like, oh, you're hungry, go eat something. Or, oh, you're stressed, you should go eat. Or, wow, I'm feeling really grumpy right now. I know a cookie will make me feel better, or whatever. Like grab that thought and be like, wait a second. A cookie won't make me feel better because I know after I eat it, I'm going to beat myself up for hours about it. And I'll either eat more of them or I'll feel like a total failure. So no, a cookie won't make me feel better, right? Like you can challenge those thoughts that you have. So when you isolate the thoughts you have that are driving the feelings, that is like a really crucial key to weight loss. And it's so important. In fact, like if you don't learn this skill, weight loss will probably feel very elusive for you, or you'll feel powerless. Again, that feeling of powerless will come up again because you'll feel like, I don't know why I always feel like I need to eat. It's just like I can't stop, right? But you're not asking the questions. You're not capturing those thoughts. You're just responding to your emotions and your feelings. Just because you have a feeling, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's reporting the truth to you, right? It's just the way your brain is interpreting what's going on. And so you can challenge it and be like, hey, wait a second. I don't know if this is true. And that's totally okay to do, right? So, if you want to work with this, let me give you a couple things that you can ask yourself and, kind of find out what, like isolating those thoughts. So there are some like root food beliefs that we have that we may have heard when we were children, or, as we were growing up, or just in our lives now. Like perhaps food was scarce when you were younger. A very good friend of mine, she grew up in a very chaotic home, and sometimes all she had to eat was broth, like a bouillon. Actually, it was like chicken bouillon or beef bouillon, and like that is what she would eat for dinner. And so for her now, she always has her pantry packed with food, and her cupboards are always full. And she admits, and she doesn't actually have a weight problem, but she like admits, like, I cannot get low on food. I do start to panic, right? So like there are reasons why our brain will try to keep us safe and give us these thoughts and these beliefs. Like they serve us, they kept us safe and alive. And so we'll just tend to continue on with them. So I want you to maybe pay attention this week going forward. Like, okay, what are the beliefs that I have that maybe I never really realized I have, but that's actually driving me to eat. And now that I realize it, I can challenge it. And all of a sudden, when I do have that urge to eat and I'm not answering it, and I'm actually saying to my brain, like, hey, I'm not hungry. I'm just thinking this because this is like a habit thought that I have. And then the hunger sensation will probably dissipate pretty quick. And you can go on about your day not having eaten those calories, and do that over and over again. And you'll be amazed. Like all of a sudden you're down a few pounds and you're like, what? I didn't diet. I didn't, like you're finally just paying attention, and it clicks. So here are some things just to kind of get your brain flowing and kind of see like what I'm talking about. So if you grab a pen and paper or type into your phone, I'm eating this because, and then finish the sentence. And then we'll kind of come up with some common food beliefs, right? So there's habits and traditions. And then we've talked about that a little bit at the beginning, like with this idea of the dinner parties. So if all of a sudden it's the end of the day and you sit down in front of the TV, you could say, I'm eating this because I always eat this when I watch TV. Or I always eat candy and popcorn at the movies. Or, well, I always have dessert when we go out on a date. Okay. Or I always eat too much at Thanksgiving. That's normal. Or, well, I always eat once I pull up the driveway and go home. Okay. So be careful of justifying eating out of habit or tradition. Recognize that you're doing that and plan ahead. So if speaking of like the holiday parties and the holiday events that are coming up, like if you're always like, well, I always feel sick after the party because there's so much good food, I can't help myself. Like recognize your brain saying that to you, and kind of cut it off at the pass and say, I can enjoy that holiday party and have a sample of all the yummy food without stuffing myself and making myself feel sick and then feeling regretful later. But acknowledged ahead of time that those are maybe some food beliefs that you have, right? Here's some other ones too. There's this idea of like a denial example. Like, so if you just take a bite and you're like, oh, it's only a little bit, or it's just this once, or it's only because I only get this at Thanksgiving, I'm going to eat it. Or you say, well, I just have a slow metabolism, or I eat less than my skinny friends, or this is just my genes and it doesn't matter anyway. All these things are kind of a denial of your behavior, right? Like if you're denying that you're overeating, and it could turn into a compelling reason actually why you overeat. So notice if you use denial when you eat without regard to your natural hunger. So if you struggle with your weight, and I've talked about this before too, but people who struggle with their weight actually eat 47% more than they realize. So you really do need to be aware of what you're telling yourself and actually what you are really eating. And that's why I have you write down ahead of time as opposed to after. Because a lot of times people who, a lot of diet plans say like, oh, at the end of the day, tally up what you've eaten. But this denial comes in where we don't want to face maybe things or bad choices that we made. And we might say, oh, well, it was only a little bit, or it was just a bite. I'm not going to really write that down. Right. And so we'll deny that we've eaten something, but it's actually, studies have shown it's actually 47% more than what we're even realizing we're eating. So I have you write down ahead of time. And then that way you're kind of forcing yourself to keep your word to yourself. And then you're building your self-confidence and you're building your self-efficacy and you're building awareness over your food. Like, oh, I didn't write this down. I didn't plan ahead for this. So if I have it, I'm really going to go against what I said I was going to do, and you're challenging yourself. Like, it's all on you, as opposed to like this idea of, well, if I eat it now, it might not even count later, right? Like, you already are holding yourself accountable. And then there are some thoughts too, like for as far as waste goes. Like I talked about my friend who, with the bouillon, like that was all she would eat. And so for her to throw out food would make her feel panicky because there's that scarcity mindset. So other examples of waste would be like, well, I need to eat this before it goes bad, or I can't throw this away, it would be so wasteful, or I need to finish the leftovers so they won't be wasted. And another one would be, like, oh, well, they left their pie here and I would be disrespecting them if I threw it in the garbage. And I have to tell you, a couple times, people have brought, like over the 20 something years that I've hosted Thanksgiving, people have brought various desserts and stuff like that. And my kids, like, they're not pie people eaters anyway. And I'm really not either. So like if people leave their pies, usually they're like, no, you have a ton of kids. I know they'll just go through it. And I don't argue. I'm just like, okay, thanks so much. And as they drive away, we literally just throw it out. I don't feel bad because, when you're eating more than what your body needs, that is also wasting food, right? Like your body doesn't need it, but you're putting it on you. So it's just going to get wasted and it's going to be put in your fat cells. It's not going to be used to nourish you. And that's really what food does, is to nourish, right? So if this is an area where you struggle, challenge yourself to get rid of extra food. Thinking that you're solving world hunger by overeating is really a lie you're telling yourself. Like the pie that is left over, the dessert that's left over, that's not serving you and your health goals, by you eating it is not helping anybody else with world hunger. In fact, it's making you less healthy, right? Because then you're just taking on extra weight. And then there's all those, comorbidities with obesity. So, recognize that and say, me throwing it, like this food is going to get wasted one way or another. I'm going to waste it in a way that's going to allow me to still hit my health goals. And you can look at it from that point of view. Yeah, it stinks. I mean, maybe you could bring it to another place or, but don't think you have to eat it. I guess that's my point. Like if you can find another solution besides throwing it out, as long as it doesn't involve you just eating it because you think you have to, is really what I'm trying to encourage you to do. So anyway, that is what I have for you today. I hope you found it helpful, but you can go ahead, as you're eating, especially, plan ahead for those holiday parties, but then also, catch yourself and figure out like, okay, why am I eating this? Is this like is the root of this a food belief that I have that I'm feeling like I'm supposed to be eating, even though it isn't serving me? And then go from there and see what happens. All right. I hope you have an awesome day. If you want any sort of like one-on-one coaching, I'm going to drop the link inside the notes for this podcast. So you can totally sign up with me. I have 5 spots open currently to take one-on-one clients. So if that is something you want to do, once you start working with me, you have immediate access to the health and wellness blueprint. And then we would meet once a week. And I think especially if you're going into the holidays and you really want extra support, I would love to walk beside you through this journey, especially the next few months. And then I usually work with people 3 months at a time. So if you would like that, we could do that. And then we can also head right into the new year then too. But let me know. I'll leave the link and then you can sign up and we can have a phone call and talk about working together. All right. You guys take care. Have an awesome week and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.